this is Governor Bobber. I like good day, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Good Friday evening, everyone. How is it's the two doctors today because it's summertime and the doctors are out busy doing their travels and going to concerts and having peak shakes at their concerts and stuff like that. But we are here, the true believers. I think Don is the only doctor I don't think he's ever taken off since we kind of did the virtual format of the show.
I think the only time I wasn't able to do it was when my father-in-law passed away a little over a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I've missed a couple of shows. I'll probably miss another show in February when I go to Florida. Not February, in August when I go to Florida again. And but yeah, I definitely want to do another show from the beach there. That was a lot of fun doing that show.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah. And I was thinking maybe the waves and the wind would, but it wasn't that bad at all. And we had a busy week this week, a lot of things happening, we found out the Democrats have kind of shown their true colors as in being socialists, and BLM supporting the jackbooted thugs of the communist regime in Cuba. I love BLM, where they said the people chose, we shouldn't be interfering with the people chose, I believe I'm paraphrasing, but no, they didn't. It was communism was rammed down their throats, frankly. And it's how is it that I don't get it. It's like it's one of those things. It's like we've been we've gone around and seen over the years. I mean, we've always known the Democrat Party was soft on communism, but I think now he's just got the confirmation. God bless, the days of the anti-communist Democrats like Pat Moynihan and John Kennedy. They wouldn't even be welcome in today's Democrat Party, frankly, with their anti-communist views. I mean, AOC is another one. She, it's like, where is our Joe McCarthy of our generation, Don? Where is Joe?
I'm not sure we want a Joe McCarthy necessarily, but
that's true. They're all.
You'll make the media happy with that comment, I'm sure. But you're right. I mean, look. I mean, if you're going to talk about, Cuba. I mean, we have this unrest. Really, I mean, kind of unprecedented in the sense of having that. I mean, I was shocked to see this. You can kind of compare it to Hong Kong in a way, but it's probably even more shocking because this is Cuba. I mean, Hong Kong is being run by China, but they had pledged to kind of keep a little bit of a hands-off policy, and there'd been a lot of democratic freedoms. Cuba is a communist dictatorship, through and through. The people there haven't had any kind of real freedom, since the whole Castro, took over and everything like that. And so as a result, what I thought was really fascinating about this whole thing was, as I was reading a little bit about it, is that it was it didn't start with political unrest. I mean, Hong Kong, the thing that was getting them mad was that law that they were trying to ram down their throat, the new security law. Cuba, it was really art and entertainment. There were these underground, TikTok music artists and things like that. She'd had demonstrations years ago or so, promoting Cuban government's crackdown on artists, trying to define who was an artist, and what art, what is art, and so that there was some backlash there. It was peaceful, but after this whole thing, I mean, they become in that way, I guess, in a way, they've been pressing so hard on this when this TikTok was released, and it only came because Cuba went ahead and actually allowed cell phones to have internet access, and voila, it spread like wildfire. And so all kinds of people came out on the streets and it really kind of caught the Cuban government off guard. They weren't expecting it. They weren't ready for it. And Joe Biden and the Democrats were caught flat-footed too, because it took days before Biden administration finally said anything about this, and the best that they could do was say that communism is a universally failed system. But it took them days. I mean, there were even Democrats a lot, in the not quite necessarily in the mold of of Monahan and others that were good on this issue as Democrats, but there were some Democrats that were concerned, particularly those that had Cuban descent or Hispanic descent. They're saying, like, look, this is a problem. The administration needs to say something. Demonstrations in the street in Miami.
Homeland Security guy who's also of Cuban descent, who basically says, "You come here, we're going to turn you around and send you back to Cuba."
Yeah, that was what a wonderful.
How does that jive with the Mexican border? You know what it is? This is something I've always said. If people come across the Texas border, the Rio Grande, were going to come here and vote Republican, they would not be welcomed by the Democrat Party. Well, we've got these Cubans. Most Cubans tend to vote Republican. Ronald Reagan is a big hero in Cuba and the Cuban dissidents that live in South Florida community and so on. And Mayorkas is now saying you don't get to come here because we're going to send you back, because mostly, and they don't say, but we know why they're doing it, because they're going to go to South Florida and vote Republican and make Florida even a redder state than it is already. And that is the real reason why Mayorkas has said real refugees fleeing real threat of life and death coming here are not welcome. But yet those people who are basically just folks who don't have a job in Nicaragua, the Triangle countries, Honduras, Mexico, they come here. They're welcome here because they're going to come here and vote Democrat for generations.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I generally agree with that. I mean, I think you're seeing a lot of hypocrisy on the part of the administration about this. Is that we do have ones that are coming over our southern border. A lot of them are not political, types. They aren't the kind of refugees that are victims of the governments in their homelands, but it's an economic situation for a lot of them. They're looking to, they know that America would provide them with a much better life, or at least a pipeline to get money back into their homeland. Cubans coming, risking their lives of trying to cross the ocean. This is definitely a political thing for them. I mean, and they're taking extremely high risk to get here. But and there is a difference. We know that the southern border, refugees, illegal immigrants, whatever you want to call them, they tend to wind up to vote Democrat through and through. Because of all the aid that they're given.
Mayorkas wants to do to the refugees that.
Yeah, I knew you would have that one ready.
What Mayorkas wants to do.
But the Cuban community, by and large, is going to vote Republican. Yeah. If there's definitely a political calculus to this, and how the administration is looking at this. I think the administration also is a little bit. They're not really sure. They weren't expecting it, obviously, and they really weren't sure what to do about this, because they still want to play nice with Cuba and the communist lands. So they don't want to take too tough a stance and upset these guys. And yet, you need to take a stand. I mean, all those people who came out in Miami and, went down, blocked off the boulevards and stuff like that, they want something to happen there. I mean, it puts a big spotlight on Cuba, which a lot of people have really ignored, fortunately, because we can laugh at some of the movies we've seen that portray Cuba with the 1950s, 60 style vehicles and stuff like that. But we know that under the Obama administration, when Obama opened up travel to Cuba and allowed
the Simpsons, the first Americans to go to Cuba.
You lined these up really well. It's pretty funny. But what I remember from the reports from the media when that happened, because they were like, wow, this is great. They wanted to praise Obama for opening up Cuba, was that they had a huge problem. is that the internet was terrible in Cuba, and so they were resorting to satellite and whatever else that they could figure out to try to get things out of there. But they had a hard time glossing over some of the rooms in Cuba, and if the media was going to be honest, they would show how much Cuba resembles North Korea, that type of situation. There's a lot of cover up about these communist dictatorships. So the bad parts we never really get to see. The media and the Democrats turn a blind eye to that. And then you got Bernie Sanders, and you mentioned AOC. They're definitely socialist / communist sympathizers. AOC's not happy with the Biden administration for this. Hello, wake up.
AOC is the pink lady of our generation, frankly. Historians know who that is. President Nixon defeated her. I believe it was the California Senate race, or no, state. I think it was a congressional race where President Nixon ran against the pink lady and defeated her, and then he went on to become a senator from California, and then eventually vice president and president. One of the things is like. Why Radio Marti should we should be using that to flood the airways. Honestly, this is a golden opportunity for us. Look, the Russians are not going to come and defend Cuba. I think maybe we just do a little blockade of Cuba and maybe mass 50,000 troops in Key West, if we can fit that many down there, and just make it look like we're going to invade. And I tell you, they will. Havana will fall and we'll have free and open elections, or maybe it becomes the state of New South Florida.
I'm not sure the residents of Key West would be too thrilled about any kind of troops there.
Well, there's a lot of things, like if you remember, in Beirut used to be the Paris of the Middle East. In I believe it was 53, President Eisenhower sent the Marines into Beirut. They were coming across the beach as you had French tourists right there. Sunbathing on the beaches of Beirut in Lebanon. You got to do what you have to do.
Yeah, I remember we had a tech guy at AIM back when AIM's offices were on K Street, and the guy actually he was from Beirut. I mean, it's a shame to watch countries like that, how things change, because of the shift in politics and all these other things like that. There's some lovely parts of the world that have been totally destroyed by leftists, by communists, by socialists. But and what's frightening is to see how much the socialists have sway. I mean, not just AOC and Bernie Sanders, but I think they have an election in Buffalo. I think the mayor, they elected a socialist mayor in Buffalo or something just recently.
Yeah.
It's bad. And, but you listen to AOC or you listen to BLM. I mean, they're talking about how the U.S. I mean, they're basically being this just kind of the puppet here for the Cuban government. The Cuban government blamed the U.S. for the unrest in Cuba. And then BLM and AOC come in. They talk about the embargo we've had for decades. They want the embargo lifted to help the poor people of Cuba. The embargo is not the problem.
Yeah, and here's the thing: the embargo does not ban this food and medical supplies. The embargo is for technology transfers, raw goods like steel, iron ore, and so on. That is not. They're not. Last check, I don't think Cubans are eating steel, iron ore, coal, or any of that stuff. And I don't think heating in the winter times is a big problem in Cuba.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when you talk about these communist countries, because North Korea is a real sore point for me, having my wife being from South Korea and her mother having fled from North Korea. But the one thing that has bothered me for decades, and Trump was going to turn this around, and he didn't quite get there. I mean, I thought we were going to have the official end of the war and all that stuff. Is that North Korea? They've used South Korea, they've used the U.S. and other countries for looking for humanitarian aid, and the U.S. is not going to turn down countries even if they don't agree with them politically on humanitarian aid. The U.S. and South Korea have provided North Korea with lots of humanitarian aid. Which I really don't think really gets to the people.
Yeah, it's like the Armenian earthquake under the Soviet Empire. I mean, we sent aid. We sent money. We collected money to send to the folks of Armenia during the when they had that earthquake. Yeah, I'm willing to bet most of the money didn't make it to the Armenian folks, who were um, victims of the earthquake. Probably went into some member of the Politburo's back pocket, frankly.
Yeah, I mean that's always the fear, right? I mean, with a lot of these countries, when you have these corrupt countries, I mean the same thing for Ethiopia, right? I mean, we know that there was corruption in their government, and it's like you can, unless you drop the aid, by plane or something like that directly into the areas that were affected, you really didn't know what happened to those truckloads and plane loads of food and aid, because the government was probably going to scoop that up and keep that for themselves and to not starve their people.
It's like that, and it's kind of like, even if you look at it, if you look at the money that folks sent down to New Orleans during Katrina, okay, I wouldn't put it past that half the money was like squandered amongst the corrupt New Orleans city council, or the mayor, who now I believe is sitting in prison now, the former mayor, Ray Nagans. Didn't William Jefferson have the troops go back to his house to get a bag full of money out of his refrigerator? I mean, it happens in Democrat-run cities too. Here, which is, it's a shame. People were trying to help the good people of New Orleans, and then the money was ending up in people like Ray Nagans and William Jefferson's refrigerators.
Yeah, well, I'm with you on a lot of this stuff. I don't necessarily want to say that it's just Democrats, because I think politics. The problem for me too has been with politics is just that it is like that absolute power corrupts absolutely type of thing. Yeah. People get in there, they stay in there too long. Yes. Even people that we've known, have been subject to
the Hutchinson brothers. Like, if you recall, remember, I believe it was Asa Hutchinson, who was a big fan of the conservative right, Paul Weyrich, and he comes to Washington, and Paul Weyrich used to say, there is something in the water in Washington, D.C. that good people go bad. Asa Hutchinson, I believe it was Asa Hutchinson. Yeah. Was Asa the one that was the senator who had an affair and divorced his wife and left her for the other woman, or was it his brother? I forget. One of the Hutchinson brothers, evidently.
It may have been Asa. Was Asa the governor later?
Yeah. This is the this is the governor, and Asa is also the one who is basically, we were talking, a lot of people were saying he'd be a great candidate for president, and then Asa Hutchinson comes to Washington, has an affair, leaves his wife, and all of a sudden it's like, he's put his values, it's like, and that happened pretty fast. It wasn't even like he was a two-term, multi-term senator. This was his first term. This was in his first term. All this stuff started happening. So there is something about the water in Washington that drives people to corruption.
It does. And the thing, I don't know if it bothers you as much as it bothers me, with the media and their attention to a lot of these things. I mean, I don't care about them exposing these people, but on the moral side, the ones that they focus in on for lapses or the Republicans first, and they kind of in their
Hunter
thing.
Biden, Hunter Biden.
Right? Whether or not it's Bob Bauman, Stanford, all these people that we've had in the past, Phil Crane. I think his brother Dan Crane even had. I mean, there were some people who had issues. They had some lapses. So it's
Phil Crane is Phil Crane's an old friend to conservatives. I mean, I think he even used to sign.
Oh yeah.
And he was very helpful to the college Republicans back in the days. He came and spoke at GW. He spoke at Maryland. Phil Crane's a good guy.
Phil did have a tendency to drink a lot, though. I was
so did Ted Kennedy. Yeah.
I was at a few parties where Phil was there, and Phil and Arlene, he knew how to drink.
Yes, they did.
Wasn't his brother? Didn't his brother have a downfall because of some homosexual thing or something or other?
Yes.
This is the problem. We had the former governor of Missouri, Greitens. He's going to run for senator or something like that. But he also there was a marital affair type of issue or something. Now there's a lot of accusations that get floated around for which sometimes I'm not sure they're exactly proven. But it tends to drive the Republicans out of office more than the Democrats.
Governor Sanford was probably going to be the was a front runner to run for president, but then he
Yeah.
basically disappeared and went to meet his mistress in South America, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And
So
then
so we got Charlie Deegan saying, John Tower, another one.
John Tower. John Tower was a great American. Okay, I know a lot of people don't like what do you call it? Don't like John Tower, but John Tower he was really good. I mean, they went after John Sununu too the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
They accused him of being a womanizer. Well, he was single first of all. When he was a woman, they said he was an alcoholic. Nobody ever accused Ted Kennedy of being an alcoholic or a womanizer, which he was also both of those things too. And he was very married both times. And,
Lindsey Graham is a target all the time, right?
Yeah, Lindsey Graham. If you recall, another target of theirs has always been our friend, not Jim Dobson, Dr. Dobson, but what's the guy's name? He used to be the head of what's that? Christian, not Christian Coalition, but what's that other group that Family Research Council, FRC? You know what I'm talking about? Gary Bauer.
Oh, Gary Bauer, yeah.
They used to go after Gary Bauer mercilessly. They would do that to a number of other Republicans. They would go after a lot of Republicans unfairly. I mean, they went after Dan Quayle, if you recall, in 1988 after he was selected as the vice president. They said Dan Quayle was having an affair. That was nothing, but for a couple of weeks they dragged his name through the mud, and.
Well, I mean, Mike Pence too. I mean, they went after, one of the things they went after Mike Pence for, which was really ridiculous, was the fact that he had a rule that he would never go, he would never be alone with another woman who wasn't his wife in a restaurant or other public place. More power to Mike Pence.
Yeah.
I mean, he made me think a lot about that, because it never had occurred to me about what his line of thinking was and how that does affect things. I mean, I've had plenty of business meals, lunches, and stuff like that with.
Yeah. We all have.
Thought of
it. And here's the thing: 20 years ago, it was not a big. Today, an accusation from somebody, whether falsely, things are misinterpreted, like my friend Ray Kroll, who I'd wrote his biography. Ray would go around. I mean, Ray was from a different era. I mean, Ray would go around. He'd see, I remember went to lunch at this place in Baltimore where the red hat women were there. I think they're widow women that wear the red hats, and they go out and have lunch and stuff like that. But Ray goes there and hands people a little, and I'm sure some of the women thought they were a little strange, but Ray always traveled around with little goodies to give away, and he has me go to his car and get all these things that he bought at a flea market. So he's giving these women these little pieces of jewelry and telling them all these stories, about the jewelry, and then he's hugging these women. I'm like, that would not go over too well today.
Well, I mean, our culture has changed a great deal. I mean, look, I mean, what Pence is talking about, and what you're talking about too, in terms of how the shift is that thanks to social media, I mean, it's very easy for people to snap photos on their smartphones and then tweet about it or put it on Facebook. There doesn't have to be any context. So-and-so is with so-and-so. We don't know what the context was.
It happened to our friend, Governor and then Secretary of the Interior, Dirk Kempthorne. He's at the airport in Hawaii with his daughter, teenage daughter. She was probably 18, 19 years old. And what does the Idahoan, the liberal newspaper, put out? Oh, former Governor Kempthorne is having an affair with a 19-year-old girl that's old enough to be his daughter. Well, that was his daughter. And that was the funniest thing. It's like they go after Dirk Kempthorne for stuff like that. And the apology appears in about this size on the back page. Oh, we got that wrong. That was Interior Secretary's daughter, not his mistress. And they've done that many a times. And then you have politicians that purposely try to say they're having an affair. Like this is our friend Gary Bauer again when he ran for president. If you recall, he was starting a rumor that he was having an affair with somebody, and he got caught with his wife with a wig on at some hotel. I mean, it's stuff like that. I mean, because he was not getting in 2000. Gary Bauer's campaign was not getting any traction. I think it was pretty, and I think because this was coming off of because George W. Bush was doing very well in the polls in Iowa, and he came out and ran away with it in New Hampshire. He lost Iowa. I think he came in third or fourth. He didn't do well in Iowa. He did better, and he won New Hampshire, if I recall. And Gary Bowers is like he's one of the candidates that's fighting for oxygen in the room. And he makes up this story. He does have the reporters follow him around, and they follow him around. They find out, oh, he's fooling around with his own wife, so he's not having an affair. I mean, that's so it works a little bit both ways. And I remember there's another friend of ours who ran for state senate that he was joking around because he goes, maybe I should tell the media I'm fooling around, have my wife put a wig on it. And I said, don't do that. It was done before, and it didn't end up well. But
so we spent about time. Let's talk. You mentioned the Texas Democrats at the beginning of the show.
Yeah,
we do need to at least address this for a little while. Pretty stunning, but then again, not out of character for Democrats. They're outnumbered in the Texas, House of Representatives and the state legislature. Governor Abbott, called for a special 30-day session. He wanted to get these voting rules, the new laws passed, tighten up the loophole, thing like that. The Democrats walked out, and some of them left and then caught charter planes out of Texas to D.C. to prevent a quorum from taking place and then preventing the House from voting on them. The Texas Senate has passed the law. So they need to have the Texas House pass the law. It's a 30-day session. The Democrats are vowing that they're going to stay out of state until that time is up. But Governor Abbott, he said, look, let's call another session. And when you come back, we're going to arrest you and we're going to force you to do something. We're going to,
I tell you, what you do? You lock them into the. By the way, I don't know if you've ever been to the Texas State Capitol building. It is a beautiful building, and the chambers are very nice, very spacious, very. I say you put them in there. You put the Texas Rangers on the outside so they can't leave. Until they have the vote, and then there's nothing. I mean, I feel like we should do that to our legislators in Annapolis. So. Let's lock them in there and do our sessions in July. Turn off the air conditioning at the state capitol, and I mean, they could do that in Texas too. And then because Austin gets pretty hot in the summer months, without AC.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, this is a lot of show, for this. I mean, they come to D.C. And all the Democrats here hail them as like these big heroes who are fighting for democracy and voting rights.
Fighting Jim Crow 2.0, according to Joe Biden.
Tell me, I mean, Joe Biden gives a speech about this whole thing, all of this stuff, and talks about Jim Crow. He's talking about, democracy in peril and in danger and all these things like this. It's like, I'm sorry. I mean, I see that what the Democrats are doing, trying to create federal legislation for voting and usurping the Constitution, where the states have the ultimate authority on the elections in their states. That I think that's undemocratic, not what the Republicans are trying to do. Republicans, they're not trying to restrict voting. They saw during the pandemic that there were a lot of problems with voting, and they're trying to fix a lot of those flaws. And they do not want to codify and make permanent all the relaxation of all the voting things that happened in 2020 because of the pandemic. You want just this endless litany of voting to go on forever. You want no excuse absentee ballot. You don't care about voter ID and some kind of check to know who people are. All these things. Ballot boxes that may not be secure. Secure locations. They're trying to fix that. But the Democrats, they saw that window, right? I mean, the window of opportunity for everything that happened in 2020 to say, this was great. We need to have this permanent. And Republicans are like, no. It's like,
and
this
also,
is a disaster.
Are a function of the states. They're not a federal thing. Federal government does not get involved. That's why, you have to have the elections are all certified after they happen. I think it's about 30 days later in DC, they do the certification of the vote when the delegates all come to Washington and so on. I think the problem, the Democrats are overreaching, and they're overplaying their hand right now. if you notice some of their priorities, but hey, how's that DC statehood coming along? See, Democrats only want DC statehood when there's a Republican president. They don't care about the residents of DC. How many times do they get fooled? I mean, they wanted statehood when President Bush was in the White House. Barack Obama could have given them statehood in the first 5 days of his presidency. They had a supermajority in the Senate, close to a supermajority. There is nothing the Republicans could have done. Not one thing to do other than maybe filibuster, but that they could break that filibuster at some point because they had 60 members in the Senate. There is nothing, but they didn't give it because you know what? They really don't care. They like to have this as an issue when there's a Republican president. They didn't, they could have had, they always seem to want to have statehood when President Trump was there, that was their big thing. Statehood for DC, statehood for DC. Yeah, they're not going to get that. And the other thing they keep clamoring about, which they're not going to get because the Democrats don't want to give that up as an issue when a Republican is in the White House. They just like to throw that out as an issue when a Republican's there. It's, all these people that were, all these DC residents that were so happy when Biden. Do you guys feel like you're getting a little gypped? Because there is not a member that's going to vote for statehood next year because they're all up for re-election.
So because I'm looking back at this because the House, because since they're in control, they passed the statehood bill back in April, 216 to 208. So pretty much along party line votes based on how many people were actually holding office at the time. The problem is obviously going to be the Senate. There is not enough support in the Senate from even the Democrats that the tiebreaker vote can make it happen.
It's not even just Joe Manchin. There's a lot of Democrats that don't want to see.
Yeah, no, I think even the Senate, there's some Senate Democrats that say that this is still a problem. So it's this is a golden opportunity for the Democrats, and they can't make it up. There's a lot of things that I think Joe Biden thought were going to happen, once they took over, and they have been stalled. I know a lot of people don't like Mitch McConnell, but I will have to praise Mitch McConnell for the job he has done in holding his party, holding in step.
At least Mitt Romney and Susan Collins have not defected.
Right. And I think it's part of the fact that Donald Trump's not in office. I think there was personal animosity on the part of Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Mitt Romney towards Trump anyway, and they were going to do that. They didn't see any of that. Now they know they need to stick together because any one of them defects, it could tip the balance. Manchin and Sinema are also wild card. Manchin we knew was going to be problematic for the Democrats on some things. Sinema to me has been a little bit more of a surprise in terms of how she has held the line on some things. And, my opinion of her has changed as a result of this. And, it's created, Chuck Schumer has got headaches because of these guys, and their agenda can't go forward. Look what they're trying to do with this infrastructure. The Democrats are trying to play reconciliation with everything that they can because they don't have the votes to pass it the way they need to pass it. And it's not really going to work for them long term.
I wouldn't be surprised if, say, the Republicans take the Senate, Sinema becomes a Republican at the end of the day.
Well, that would be something.
And I could see her defecting. I don't see Manchin defecting, but I do see her defecting over. And that's quite a call there. Manchin. I think he can. I think he can still win re-election when his time comes up. A few years as a Democrat, as long as he proves during this particular point in time that he's really putting West Virginians interest. Democrat. That enough people will be swayed by. Otherwise, he has. But the influence of Donald Trump on the Republican Party continues to amaze me because we've got. You mentioned Murkowski. I think there's a Trump-backed primary challenger to her there in Alaska. There are these people all over the country. Because of this too. The media loves it because it allows them to talk about Trump and other issues.
if not for that, they'd have a hard time. I mean, their ratings are already pretty much in the tank. It's only when they talk about Trump do they get any traction with the viewers nowadays, right?
Yeah, and the problem is, someone needs to send. I don't know if they do telegrams anymore. I don't know if you remember Jack Bonner. He had a company where he'd send telegrams to members of Congress about issue. This was like before internet and being able to do stuff electronically and so on. Somebody needs to send the Democrats a telegram saying that Donald Trump is no longer president of the United States. It is Joe Biden. It's kind of like when Barack Obama was blaming President Bush for everything that went wrong under his administration. This is and touching back. These Democrats. They could put country first, but they are now choosing to put party first. And a lot of the problem is you got the bullying mentality. I think you got a lot of members, and this is with a lot of political organizations. You got a few loud mouths that feel they can bully the other people to cower into submission, so to speak. And that's what they're doing. Like a lot of, you look at a lot of the backbenchers in Congress, on the Democrat side. Some of them might actually have a backbone, but they don't want to deal with AOC at the Georgetown cocktail party circuit, so to speak, saying, "Why'd you vote for that?" Or stuff like that.
Yeah, look, I mean, and AOC is the ultimate backbencher, but she's noisy. She has a big following on Twitter and Instagram and things like that.
Okay.
The Democrats chose not to shut her down, and she's only growing larger in influence and noisier as a result.
Yeah, AOC is the kid that sits in the back of the classroom that's, throwing spitballs at the teacher, throwing things, eating in class. That is AOC. Chewing gum, cracking her gum in the back of the class, and that's AOC. She doesn't want to do her job, and she wants to distract other kids, and she wants to sort of bully people that are trying to do their jobs. That is AOC, and the squad, for that matter, is the same way. Her fellow travelers, so to speak. I think one of the problems, the other problems we're seeing now in the Democrat Party is, look in Maryland, we've got a primary coming up for governor. You got Doug Gansler, you got Peter Franchot, you have some guy who's not going to take any corporate money. I forget the guy's name. You got Tom Perez, former wannabe attorney general of the state of Maryland, and then he found out he didn't meet the qualifications. Then you got Michael Steele, who's also thinking of running for governor as a Democrat, and we've got Kelly Schultz, and they got all these. And the Democrat Party is not. They're not feeling the love for folks like Peter Franchot and Doug Gansler because they're too right wing for the Maryland Democrat Party and Democrats in general. But they're happy with Tom Perez. They'd probably be happy if Tom Hucker would run for governor too, frankly, or Mark Elrick. Those are the kind of Democrats they want. I was once talking to Baltimore County Democrats Dutch Ruppersberger, who's far, far, far from a right-wing conservative, or he's not even a Harry Hughes Democrat. But they feel he's much too conservative for the Democrat. They wish they would have somebody better than him representing that district. Which means the Democrat Party, I'm willing to bet they're going to go with the Democrats nominee is going to be probably Tom Perez at the end of the day. And Kelly will win by 5 percentage points over him.
So you're actually saying that Brian Griffithson he's got those power rankings had Franchot number 1 and Schultz number 2. You're going to say that Franchot is not going to be able to
I don't think
win.
Franchot is going to split the conservative moderate. Because remember, let's look at Peter Franchot. Peter Franchot was Senator Franchot. Senator Franchot that represented Tacoma Park, Maryland. When he ran against William Donald Schaefer, he ran every one of his scores. I am pro-choice. He campaigned on abortion against William Donald Schaefer in the primary. Hello, Peter. You're the comptroller. You have nothing to do with abortion. You have no say whatsoever on abortion. Why are you campaigning with it? and all of a sudden he's fooled a lot of our friends, who we've talked to, and you and I know some of them are even on our committee who seem to think, well, if Peter Franchot were governor, it wouldn't be so bad, But as I said a few weeks ago at the state party convention, only a Republican is good for Republican values and issues. It's not, there's not, like people talk about Joe Manchin's not good on Republican values and issues. He is not for life. He doesn't care about family values. He really doesn't care too much about tax cuts, and that's the same way I feel. Because Peter Franchot is going to tack to the hard left once he becomes governor. If he becomes governor, I think we're going to see him tacking to the left in the primary to out left people like Tom Perez, and there's going to be other Democrats that get into it as well. There's talk that possibly John Delaney is thinking about running for governor.
Yeah, I think in Maryland, if Franchot, does tack to the left, if he tries to outflank Perez or someone like that, I think that's a terrible mistake. Then I think, your prediction race definitely is true because, Maryland is a pretty deep blue state overall, right? But they are not. They're not a left wing state. They don't want somebody too far to the left. They want somebody that's closer to the middle, even as a Democrat. They didn't elect Schaefer and O'Malley because these guys were lefties. These guys were pretty moderate. Glendenning. Those guys were not out and out lefties.
Harry Hughes. Harry Hughes. And it's these people. What do you call? They, as our friend David Bond puts it, they've been jealous over Franchot, and jealous as an idiot. And
that was the name I couldn't remember the other day. I was trying to think of who the other guy was. Yeah, because Rusher is in the, he's running too, or wants to run,
he
right?
is too, and that's another one. Okay, and Rusher Baker is not viewed as a crazy lefty, even though he is a crazy lefty. But the problem is, there's only a finite number of free-thinking Democrats in the state of Maryland, and if you split that vote three ways, guess who ends up getting the majority? It's going to be Tom Perez and the wackies. I actually talked to a Democrat who said Ben Jealous did not go far enough, and that is why he lost to Larry Hogan. And it's like, what did you want to? How much further to the left do you want these people to go? And here's the thing. Democrats, even in Montgomery County, understand that, look, 8 years of Larry Hogan, it hasn't been that bad. Larry Hogan has not banned abortion in the state. Larry Hogan has not banned gay marriage. He has not banned, he's not started segregating schools and all these other things they accuse the Republicans of doing. And they know Maryland is doing pretty well under Governor Hogan. And if they want to continue the Hogan legacy,
that's a great point. I agree with you, because I was thinking the thing is that Maryland voters. If they are looking at this honestly, you can say the 8 years of Hogan have actually been pretty good. It's not exactly checks and balances because the legislature is so controlled by the Democrats. But it is a little bit of a check and balance situation, because he can issue, he issued some executive orders and did a few things, that were very good, and so things that would not have happened under a Democrat governor, and we didn't see taxes go crazy and stuff like that like we did under O'Malley. We didn't have all these fees. Hogan was trying to do what he could to try to cut back on some of that. Yeah. So I think Hogan's term, even if there are a lot of Republicans who are disappointed in it, was still a good 8 years when he completes it, because I think he did hold it somewhat in check. The state didn't collapse. It actually flourished. And if you're a voter, even if you're a Democrat voter, and you look at this and you say, this is really not such a bad thing. It even goes back to what the Washington Post said back when Ehrlich was running. Their editorial said that the Democrats had too much power. It was a one-party state, and that we needed balance. And I think even I'm under no illusion that the Washington Post would ever endorse a Republican for governor in Maryland again. But because that was pretty shocking as it was back then. But
they
I think
might endorse Kelly if Perez is the alternative. But then again, it's I think was Dr. Evil Jeff Bezos owning the Post when Larry was running for governor? Was it before he bought the Post?
he's on the Post for years now.
Okay.
It goes back into at least 2016, 2017.
Okay, so yeah, okay. I mean, it's possible that because I mean, Jeff Bezos doesn't do the endorsements. What do you call the editorial board? I believe it does the
Right. I mean,
endorsements.
yeah. I mean, the theory, or at least what has been said about these billionaires, whether or not it's Warren Buffett, John Tudor Jones, Bezos owning these papers, is that they kind of put their money in to kind of save these publications, but they're not involved in the day-to-day. That's why you have an executive editor. That's why you have a publisher. They take care of things, and they run things, and so those guys hope that they don't lose too much money on the project.
And I think the what do you call was you have, I mean, what do you call with the Washington Post, even when Catherine Graham was running the show there, the Union Buster, Catherine Graham, by the way. I don't know if you knew the story, Don, but Catherine Graham, when they were automated, she basically busted up the print press people that laid out the stuff had their own union, and she basically busted them up when they went to automation. But
okay, so
the Washington Post,
just to correct the record, Bezos sold the Post sold us in 2013.
Oh wow! But I could see them.
Time flies.
I know time does fly. I tell you, hard to believe it's already. I was talking to somebody about. I know you and I are both on the Montgomery County Central Committee, and you started in 2010. I joined in 2011, the spring. I was talking to somebody. I go, you realize I've been on the committee. If I run again in 2022, I would have run from the time if I was in first grade to my senior year in high school. That's how many years I've spent on the Central Committee. That is a long time when you look at it that way. So, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I hate to see that the divisions within the ranks is very off-putting to me at this point in time, and I see that we have not progressed in the last 11 years I've been on the committee. I thought we were making progress at one point, but I think we're going backwards lately.
It's like high school. You get the cliques, It's just like high school. Like I said, we're in our senior year now, or actually coming up on our senior year. But it's one of those things. It's like, but I can see the Post endorsing Kelly Schultz over Tom Perez, because the Post.
I think look, I don't know yet what Kelly's selling proposition, what her thing is going to be going forward. But I think having served in the Hogan administration gives her a bird's eye view of how the ran things, and how a Republican governor can succeed in the state of Maryland, and how a guy can win twice in the state of Maryland. Ehrlich could not do that. And Hogan,
Ehrlich, with Governor Ehrlich won, he had Martin O'Malley was a much tougher opponent than, say, what's his name, Anthony Brown or Ben Jealous. But I know you mentioned Kelly Schultz, and I know you said.
I'll say this about Ehrlich's first election: perfect storm. Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, give me a break, okay? Yeah. Definitely running against O'Malley was going to be tougher.
But Kelly's going to be in Montgomery County Monday. Did you know that?
Yes, I did. Yeah. I see. According to Ryan, there's going to be a lot. I want to go, but I don't want to be in that penthouse with like a gazillion people and not be able to move.
Oh no, you can move out. We're going to open up the deck and all that, so you'll be able to go outside. It's going to be nice.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Unless the temperature drops to 70 degrees and humidity is about 40%.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to drop.
My basic plan is that I think I'll buy a ticket and I'll show up right near the beginning, spend a little bit of time, and then head home because I go to bed early anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something we said about going to bed early. I've been staying up way past my bedtime the last couple of nights, and it's like today.
Well, it worked for me because I got a message from our dear friend Gus about did I vote for him, and I said by the time the voting took place, I was in bed. So I was completely absolved. He couldn't accuse me of anything at that point.
Mm-hmm. And what do you call? We've got there's a lot of stuff going on. And one other thing that happened this week, I want to kind of touch on is going back to Cuba a little bit. But one thing I've noticed, Joe Biden is reacting to the Cubans fighting for their freedoms the same way Barack Hussein Obama dealt with the situation in Iran when you had the pro-democracy movement break out. We did nothing, and Joe Biden pretty much has done nothing. He's done nothing to shut up the wackies in his party. Like he should have basically when AOC and Bernie Sanders said they're allowed to, people are allowed to. I've always defended the right for people to protest. They're not allowed to protest in Cuba. That's one thing they don't understand. Then they called the Cubans that were rallying for Free Cuba in Miami as a COVID super spreader. And what about all those rallies we saw all through 2020? Were those not super spreaders? What is it? Is COVID now a partisan virus?
Well, I mean, look, they did the same thing in Cuba that that China and other countries have done to their dissidents. Is that when they track them down and they put them in jail? So the main guy who was behind it in prison in Cuba since like May, the guy has been in and out of jail ever since then because those people their government their enforcement and they're these people now, it's pretty bad in Hong Kong right now, right? And we've talked about this before too, that all those people who fought for freedom in Hong Kong, throwing them in jail under very specious charges.
Yeah. I wonder what this kid's doing now in Havana. Is he on the side of the communists, or is he standing up for democracy?
Yeah. What year was that?
This was
Gonzalez anyway.
This was 99.
A long time.
This was 2000. 2000.
He was about what?
He
was like 6 years old at the time, or something like that, right?
Yes, 5 or 6. Yeah, he was very young, and he basically, he was. And thank you, Janet Reno. That was all Janet Reno.
So he's now.
And then we have.
He was born in 1993, so he'll be 28 this year.
Yeah, so he's seen freedom. Wouldn't it be awesome if we have Elian Gonzalez now part of the revolution? But I think he was sent to a re-education camp once he went there. And speaking of re-education camps, Don, I don't know if you heard the stories about what's happening to the folks that have been arrested on January 6th. They're still in prison. They're basically political prisoners. They haven't been charged. And it's been over 6 months now.
Yeah, I don't know where the due process is in this at all. I mean, I am not going to forgive and condone their behavior.
We're not condoning, but here's the thing. I think we do believe in a speedy trial. Charge them with something if you're going to charge them. Don't just keep them. Don't be like Russia and the Soviet Union. Just keep people in jail, or like Cuba. And not charge them with something. Yeah, even the Cubans have the good sense to charge people with something stupid, make something up.
Yeah, and once again, I don't have a ton of sympathy for what they did. On the other hand, where are all the people that complain? Every time you throw a Democrat or a liberal, you do something like this. when they protest or whatever, and they don't get a speedier trial or some justice. There's always kind of complaints. But these people are wallowing right now, and the liberals are, they don't care. They think it's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Their hypocrisy reigns supreme on this, and the Democrats and the media, they keep harping and they keep pounding away on that date. It's like, I want to move away from all of this. I mean, it's just, they want to highlight this. They want to keep calling it their insurrection. Our country did fine. I mean, there were some people who did some stupid things.
Yeah.
To me, I don't see any immediate threat of a takeover from those clowns.
Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, they're calling that an insurrection, which is a little funny, I think, that they're calling that an insurrection. That was not an insurrection.
But when you phrase it that way, it feeds right to your base.
Yeah.
So these types of things have been they're good for the Democrats, right?
They're really good at wordsmithing these things,
right? And it keeps the attention off of Joe Biden and his failure.
Yeah. I mean, yesterday, Jen Psaki, we are actively working with Facebook to censor free speech on Facebook. I mean, that's really what she meant. I know what that's not what she said. She said, disinformation. Something. If disinformation was something they were trying to fight, why don't they shut down Ancient Aliens, where you got all these people that think space aliens have visited and they're still coming here, and there's like some galactic councils? That's disinformation, is it? I mean, there's
I think, look, Fox's Peter Ducey had a little bit of a verbal battle with Psaki today, and I think he wasn't completely correct all the time, but I think he made some good points about, just so that anybody on Facebook before that was talking about theorizing about the virus coming out of Wuhan lab leak, Facebook will try to shut them down. But if that is now a possible theory, what's the problem here? And the administration is trying to backtrack a little bit, like, well, not really in cahoots with Facebook. They're a private company. They are doing what they can, but they've got the Surgeon General coming out yesterday talking about the amount of disinformation about the vaccines. And Biden's out there saying, it's like, look, social media, the disinformation on social media is killing people. That's what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, never mind the disinformation that was all over the internet. Facebook included, about how Dick Cheney flew a plane into, there was a plane, what do you call it, missile flown, shot into the Pentagon, or the 9/11 was an inside job. All the passengers are been taken are like in some FEMA work camp somewhere. That was all disinformation, but nobody seemed to that never seemed to hurt democracy. All of a sudden, this is disinformation when you say, that the virus was created in a lab in Wuhan. You call it the Wuhan virus. That's disinformation. They thought hashtag Stop the Steal was misinformation. I mean, these people are idiots, frankly. We are, President Nixon never went after he kind of did, but I mean, not to this degree of going after major publications who were basically trying to rake him over the coals, frankly. And shame on Jen Psaki and the White House press corps, other than Steve Ducey, and I don't know if Newsmax gets to go there anymore, but they all seem to be like kind of saying, like, can you go a little bit further, is what they probably were thinking, to shut down these. I'm gonna bet if you ask the liberals, they would love it if Facebook shut down every single Republican that's on Facebook and just take them down once. Because remember back in Facebook, you could register, you could put your party affiliation on there, and I'm surprised that's not coming. Where if you say you're a Republican, they're just gonna basically shadow ban any of your stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, they want as much information as they can on you, so they can market your information, but it also can be a target, right? Just as you're saying for that. And, why is it that I hear plenty of our friends, coming out of Facebook jail, but I've never seen any stories about or in complaints from liberals about being put in Facebook jail, which just leads me to believe that they're never thrown in Facebook jail. They're fine.
They're not. I'm
They're
one of
fun.
them that if I post something on there, if I post something saying, 9/11 never happened, Facebook would not censor that. If I say there's a UFO that landed on the west lawn of the White House yesterday, that would not be censored. That's also disinformation, according to the White House. I could say, that in Japan they have Godzilla locked up in a cave, and they bring him out every time they have they absorb nuclear radiation and fight aliens that try to attack Japan. That's all disinformation, but that wouldn't be banned. However, if I say the virus was developed in a lab in Wuhan, they'd say, oh, that's disinformation. If I say hydrochloroquine can help fight COVID, I'd be putting Facebook. Both of those things that did happen, and now those things are true. Hydrochloroquine does help fight COVID, and the virus was from a lab in Wuhan. Uh, they, so Facebook's got it wrong an awful lot of time. Are we really going to entrust our free speech and values to Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook?
Apparently so. We've used up an hour.
Yeah, I know. Who would have thunk it? So final thoughts. Let me go first because I got a couple of funny ones. Coca-Cola is back in the
All
news,
right.
and I will say I prefer Coca-Cola to Pepsi. It tastes better, and I will continue to drink Coca-Cola. The Central Committee had a fundraiser a couple weeks ago, and guess what they had? Coca-Cola Zero and regular Coca-Cola and other Coca-Cola products, which I am not again. I am not for boycotting stuff because I think it's kind of stupid. Pepsi tastes horrible, horrible, horrible. And I mean, come on. Michael Jackson used to push Pepsi, and Coke, on the other hand, tastes better. But here's the thing. I wonder why Coke doesn't seem to want to focus on things like, I don't know, obesity and the diabetes running wild in the inner cities. How about Coke? Why don't you take some time to talk about how your product is causing obesity and diabetes, making life really bad for people in general? But no, you want to talk about the fact that your soda is woke and how you need to be less white. Good job, Coca-Cola. It is pathetic. Or about and Coca-Cola is a whole lot of more than just Coca-Cola. They're also Fanta. They're Minute Maid orange juice and all this other stuff. I believe Coca-Cola there's a lot of bad. They make a lot of other bad stuff other than Coca-Cola. Is what I would say. And
They have a part. Then they own part of Monster Energy drinks, and then
yeah, which does cause heart issues for people. And they've got Schweppes ginger ale is one of their products. Fanta, which I do like, but I wish they'd sell Fanta Zero in more than just the bottle.
There's a Fanta Zero. Wow, okay.
There is, and I wish you could get it in the Coke machines. I mean, they also make barista coffee and a bunch of other stuff. They also do orange juice. They do the Fairlife milk.
Oh yeah, the milk.
I don't know if it's
the
milk.
organic milk or the shelf.
Yeah.
The shelf
They
milk.
do that. They do. I mean, Simply Orange. Their Simply brand. Is also. I think that's also theirs. But when you go to Florida, right? And how in Florida the big thing is you go to their welcome center, you get free orange juice from them. Here I thought, I remember once I thought, okay, they probably actually just use real oranges and squeeze it in and give it to you. No, they just actually open up things of Simply Orange and pour it in there. But I mean,
still free juice. Free juice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like a small Dixie cup is what they give it to you. They used to give it in larger cups, but now it's like a Dixie cup they give it to you. But they've got, Coca-Cola's got a lot of products that are not heart healthy products, and I kind of wish that they'd also talk a little bit about that instead of talking about how they need to be less white. So that's my final thought on Coca-Cola. And drink Coke, it tastes better than Pepsi, frankly. And my other point is I want to bring up is that the Montgomery County Rotary Club is sponsoring a fundraiser for Kelly Schultz. All the proceeds go to Kelly Schultz for governor Monday night in Kensington. It is still not too late to buy tickets. Go to MontgomeryCountyRepublicClub.com and go to events, click on the link. You can go buy tickets. Tickets are only $35. Only $35. If a certain doctor were here, I could really do that whole crazy Eddie bit right about now. The prices are so low, they're insane.
Yeah, you guys have kind of got an Abbott and Costello routine too.
Yeah. Also, red, white, and blue dinner is coming up. Keep your eyes peeled on your emails. I hear it's going to be a really big name speaker.
Oh, good.
So those are my final thoughts. Don?
All right. Just a couple of things here. One is because you were talking about the wokeness anyway. So this will be the National Football League now is going to play the Black National Anthem at every game as well. And they're going to ramp up their efforts on social justice. And, I think a lot of fans were willing to deal with how woke the NFL had become before, but I'm not sure that this step here is one that's going to be beneficial to them. But I've cut my cable as of this week, and I'm not playing, and I haven't watched an NFL game since the Colin Kaepernick whole controversy. I don't really miss it, so they lose me. But I think an in-your-face social justice campaign, that's not going to cut it. I think that's going to be bad for them.
And they've got a lot of other problems on top of that. I mean, see, just the victim. That's for not going to bed. So kids out there, if you're watching, go to bed at a reasonable hour. But anyways, speaking of that, the national anthem. Say, okay, when do we start hearing the Mexican national anthem and all these other national anthems? Because those are people there too. I saw somebody joke to one of the Star Trek Facebook groups where I'm not going to watch NFL game until they start playing the Klingon anthem, or the Federation anthem, because I identify as a member of the Federation of Planets, but
I figured.
where does this stop? Where does the madness stop? Frankly, it's like, I mean, when you go to the Empire, the Great Britain, they don't play Stars and Stripes. They play God Save the Queen. You go to France, they play La Marseillaise, the French national anthem. They don't play God Save the Queen or the American national anthem or any other, or the German national anthem. I think they heard the German national anthem enough during World War II, probably. So they probably never. But Maryland, by the way, we've lost our state song too. We have no state song now anymore. Now, when you go to the University of Maryland and you hear the chimes at the chapel, it's just the old Tannenbaum that they just haven't. We're like we're like those folks who don't take down their Christmas tree lights. And so
right. And then one more thing on a more upbeat note. I just want to. I was sitting on here. We would have had a discussion about this anyway. So that we just had the baseball All-Star game this past week, just a few days ago, and on Monday night we had the home run derby, and representing the Baltimore Orioles, which I'm not a big fan of, but I do have a very strong feeling about Trey Mancini and his comeback from cancer, and what a tremendous example of that he's been. And he was in the home run derby, and I think he surprised a lot of people because he finished second.
That's Orioles magic.
He lost out to Pete Alonso of the Mets, who is just a beast of an individual when it comes to the home run derby. Mm-hmm. But congratulations to Trey Mancini. That's a tremendous accomplishment to finish second. Kind of highlights everything that he went through and battling cancer and being able to get back on the baseball field. So he's an inspiration to everyone, I think, in America.
I agree. And that's a very positive note. So we'll see everyone again next week. And remember, everyone, to keep drinking Coca-Cola. Yes, they're woke, but it tastes better than Pepsi.
I just drink Deer Park water.
I prefer Evian.
Oh, you're part of the bourgeoisie.
No, actually, this was on sale. You get this was on sale at the Giant this week. So I picked up a big thing of that. So that's why I have that out. But I do like these bottles are actually built better than the Dasani bottles. Frankly, they're
Dasani,
more.
which is a Coke product.
Yeah, but see, these are actually more sturdier as a bottle, while the Dasani bottles crack. They're made of recycled plastics. That's not.
I will say I don't like how they over the years they changed the water bottles, most of them, from things that were fairly sturdy to those really weak ones because it's recyclable and all this kind of stuff. They made them thinner and weaker,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, give me a break.
See, if I drop this on the floor, it's not going to rip the bottle, but if it was a Dasani bottle, it would rip.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
That's everyone's lesson for the day. Buy the sturdier bottle.
Everybody.
Everyone, good night, everyone.